If you want to private label an existing product, you have three options. And most companies, when they start out, they start with an ODM supplier, okay? Original design manufacturer. This means that they have an existing product, okay? So you pick their existing product. Maybe you see it on a trade show, on their Alibaba page or whatever, and you say, I want just this one. Can you maybe change the color? Can you put my logo on it? Can you do the packaging a little bit different? Can you put maybe 3 in a set? Whatever, but the basic product itself is the same. In some cases, maybe can you change this material? Sometimes it doesn't really have a big impact. All of this is possible based on an existing product that they have, okay? And pretty much every company that just wants to distribute an existing product will start here. That's step one. And you start to sell it, and your sales level increases, and you start to think of how to perpetuate your business, how to make it less risky, and so on, how to have more control. Okay, so you want to move a little bit higher on both of these axes. Maybe your relationship is great with the ODM. That's great. Keep working at it, but maybe try to have sort of a contract with them. Try to clarify your standard when it comes to quality. You know what you can expect, what you cannot expect. Maybe you try to negotiate exclusivity. There's a lot of things like this you can work on with them if you have a good productive relationship. Now, the problem and why people often move then to OEM, which is number 2, is that the ODM very often just sees you as a distributor, okay? So, and they really own the product, and they would just do what they want. And they might act in not very ethical ways. They might cut your exclusivity rights that were not really documented. You cannot really enforce it. They know about they know that. They would say, oh no, well, there's another company selling this also on your market, or maybe they will not say it, and you will find out about it. All kinds of things like this that happen. Really a big problem of control, because basically they control you. All right, then. Let's say your business has grown and you want to really set it on firmer ground, but you know what kind of product is nice and sells. Well, then you are going to move to original equipment manufacturer. Don't think of what this means. Actually, it's more confusing than anything else. But basically, they're already in that space. Okay, so if you maybe you were buying cooking utensils, okay, in maybe some kitchen gadgets in wood and silicone, let's say, okay. The ODM had it in their showroom, right? Exactly this one, and then you say exactly, yeah, I want this just the same as this sample, just make it in blue or whatever, okay, with my brand name. Here, they also make similar products. That's the key. Similar types of applications, similar types of materials, and so on. And what that means is they're going to develop your product, okay, sort of from scratch. However, they already have an understanding, again, of the application and materials and so on. So especially if your product is not very complicated, like my example, it can be done relatively easily. There are some big pros here, big benefits. Maybe you have to pay for the tooling. Okay, again, in my example for silicon, it's not very expensive, but then the logo maybe might be in the tool itself, right? It's better branding. That's an example of the pros here. And it makes it harder for them, obviously, to use the same mold that you paid for other customers. However, when it's the ODM, they will do it without thinking, because it's not something they promised not to do. It makes a lot of sense for them to do it. Well, no, it makes it more right. Another big pro is you can make it a little bit unique, right? We said existing product, but from an existing product, in step 2, you can move a little bit in the direction of a more unique product. So that's great. The downside of the OEM is that, again, you might not have sufficiently high control. In most cases, this is fine. If you have an existing product, that's probably the best you can do. Try from the beginning to have them agree on a contract that at least spells out the major risks, right? You don't want them to sell the same product to others. You don't want them to raise the prices too fast, maybe. You don't want them to do certain things. You don't want big quality issues and so on. Again, these two things here, and also exclusivity, even more since it's really your product that you developed from scratch, are applicable here. Okay, and the benefit is that sometimes the OEM, if they see, again, this is step number 2, you can say, well, I already buy 20,000 pieces of this a year, and this keeps increasing, so next year we're planning on 40,000. Well, they might subsidize the development a little bit. Okay, they might say, well, okay, the tooling, we'll do the design for the tooling and everything for free, and then you just pay for the fabrication itself. This is an example, right? But subsidized development means that who owns the IP rights? Okay, this tends to be a very tricky situation if it's not spelled out very clearly in the contract. You can pull the tooling, you own the IP rights, they don't have the right to do anything with that, to sell it to other companies and so on. All right. In some rare cases, it makes sense to go for a contract manufacturer. And let's say this is step 3. I say rare cases because in most cases the OEM would be fine, and then if this one is messing up, then you just switch to another OEM. Okay, OEM 2. This is very often what happens. However, if you really want high control and your sales are really growing, then you go for version 2 or version 3 of your product. You make it more unique. Okay, and you want to avoid a lot of the issues of the OEM, and you go with a CM. I wrote about that separately. It's a little bit outside the scope of this video here, but a contract manufacturer will have better incentives, will be more transparent, basically will really allow you to have a lot more control, and will usually tend to be a little bit more professional, will tend to do more of the process engineering before production to avoid quality problems, delays, and so on. On the other hand, they will tend to invoice you for a lot more things, right? And you will pay for sourcing of the materials, you will pay for the design and engineering, and in some cases you will probably have to work with the designer on your side to do some of the work, and so you pay more upfront. But again, this is for cases where you you have really a successful product, you want to go deeper, you want to add a couple of features to it, you want to make it a bit more complicated, more unique, and you already know that you're going to sell it at a certain level, and you know that you want a level of control that the ODMs especially, but also the OEMs might not be able to provide you with. So that's an overview here. ODM, OEM, CM. Again, in most cases, you start with an ODM. If you really hit the limits on this and your sales grow up and you think it's promising, you want to get out of that and go to an OEM. If one doesn't work, maybe you try another one. It's important to set the right expectations from the start and get them to confirm it. And if things are still a little bit too fluid, let's say, to your taste, then you might want to again change to another kind of supplier that has another kind of business model, the contract manufacturer. Hope it's clear and helpful. Thank you.